me just say this up front. Every time anyone goes missing, it is a mystery, and it is sad, and it is torture for the family. Every one of these people is valuable and deserves to be found. But that's just it. Not all missing people are treated the same. People go missing every day. People of all races, men and women, adults and children, and yet the media doesn't cover them in the same way. No one gets more coverage than missing white women, particularly if they are well off, particularly if they are considered attractive, particularly if they are cute little white girls. The late journalist Gwen Ifill coined the phrase, missing white woman syndrome, for this phenomenon in 2004. There is no way to defend this imbalance of coverage. These women are not politicians, leaders of industry, or celebrities. They are everyday people. This imbalance is an outgrowth of white supremacy. It signals who the leaders of newsrooms value, who they see as worthy of sympathy, who arouses their sense of valor. And the imbalance of coverage leads to an imbalance of resource allocation. Government agencies respond to the cases getting the most attention. All levels of law enforcement get involved in the search for the person who is on the news. And all of the attention also creates an imbalance of public sympathy. We care about the missing because we are human, and these are stories of human suffering. But it also has the opposite effect of erasing and overlooking the human suffering of all the people who are not white women by omission. This is why I am so proud of my colleague Yodit Tewolde and her work covering the cases of missing black girls and women. That is the power of black newsmakers, black decision makers, and a black news channel. Joining me now is the host of Making the Case here on BNC, Yodit Tewolde. Hello, Yodit. So we have been, we have been following another case.
I just wanted to say thank you, Charles, for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Another case, always tragic, but missing from the equation is always the black women and girls, anyone who Hispanic, Native people who are missing. There are all kinds of people missing. I really appreciate the fact that you focus so much of your show on missing women and girls. Why is that?
Well, I practice in both the criminal adult and juvenile systems, and that was my point of reference for how systemic failures basically leave black women and girls disposable, right? Starting with the juvenile system, adults see juveniles as less innocent. They see them as more adult-like than their white peers. And instead of giving black girls the protection of childhood, innocence, what they do is they think of them as more adult-like, that they're more knowledgeable about sex, that they're more independent. And so, if they're more independent, and they're knowledgeable about sex, and they don't need the protection. And that's essentially the issue with juveniles, the juvenile system. And then that false perception follows them into adulthood. Most of the cases I received as a prosecutor in the juvenile system was for runaways. And instead of looking at possible underlying issues like physical or emotional abuse in the home, those cases were written off as just juvenile delinquency, criminality, drug abuse. And so it was really important for me, if given the opportunity and the platform to tell these stories and to cover these cases that largely go ignored and don't get the proper coverage, that I would cover them and tell them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. And we all have that responsibility, and I've been given that chance here on BNC.
If you were an alien landing on this planet anytime in America, anytime in the last 30 years, you would think that black women do not go missing. Help us dispel this misnomer. We just don't see it, and but we see so many cases of missing white women and girls, and we just don't see these in media. What do you think is the problem in the media on the media landscape that makes this an issue?
Well, I think one of the issues you already touched on was the fact that newsrooms are not diverse enough, right? But that was the reason, and partly the reason why we teamed up with the Black and Missing Foundation. It was not only important to amplify the cases of our missing Black women and girls, but also to amplify the organizations that are working tirelessly to get them back home. And so that's when we teamed up with the Black and Missing Foundation. That's the only nonprofit organization that gives voice to us. And it was founded by two amazing Black women, Natalie and Derica Wilson, who come on our show weekly, and they're the ones that provide these cases to us. And it wasn't long after our collaboration that we actually started seeing a difference being made, because we were covering this case of 17-year-old Deja Barnes. She was from Maryland, special needs kid, and her mom was calling the PG County Police Department over 2 days, begging them to help them. And mind you, these officers, their response is pretty typical to Black missing women and children. What they say is, or incorrectly categorize them as, is runaways. And when they do that, there's less urgency to finding out what is going on in that case. But anyways, it wasn't until our team reached out to the police department for a response and aired the episode or the segment that someone was finally assigned to the case, and there were 3 detectives that showed up to Deja's home. Now, thankfully, she was found safely, but that was just proof of how the power of community can really, really work when it comes to missing women and children, Black women and children, because you need both the media, you need the law, and those two things are inherently against our group. So that was the whole point in wanting to team up with them, to amplify their voices and let people know who's actually on the ground doing the work. They weren't getting the attention they deserve, and they deserve a lot.
Is there any case of a missing Black woman or girl who has gotten the kind of attention that we saw the missing woman receive from Long Island receive this week?
I was trying to think of a case, and I honestly, in my time of covering trials and cases, I'm telling you, I can't even think of one. We have, Charles, R. Kelly is going through a sex trafficking trial right now. That case should be covered as extensively as Harvey Weinstein, as Bill Cosby. We're talking about a famous singer, right? Just as famous as Bill Cosby, just as famous as Harvey Weinstein. All the trials were blocked to media and the public. So that normally, it reduces the amount of coverage that a trial would get. But that didn't stop media from coming out with daily sketches of Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein.
Yodit, thank you so much for joining us. I think we had a little bit of technical difficulty there, but tune into Yodit's show. It's an amazing show, and what she's doing is yeoman's work by highlighting these missing Black women and girls. More Prime after the break.